morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to our review of our trip. We thought we'd have a sit down. We like doing this after a trip, don't we?
Yeah.
Having a little chit chat and talking about the trip, sort of breaking it down, the highs and the lows, because obviously these are going to be going out over the next sort of few months. We filmed a lot actually, didn't we?
We did, yes.
We sat down and we broke down all the videos yesterday. There's a lot of videos. I think there's going to be 2 a week.
Yeah, we also, as well as normally the daily vlogs as well, we made sure we tried to record some other videos out there. We've always wanted to do that before.
Like tips and things like that.
We did the first one in Disneyland Paris, and if you remember, we did our What's in Our Park bag, and we actually recorded it there. So we've been trying to do some more things like that. It's sort of, it's difficult when you're on holiday, because you also want to enjoy holiday.
But it's more difficult because when you're with family or friends, it's difficult to break away as well.
It is, yes. So, but we did manage to get quite a bit done, didn't we?
Yeah,
so,
pleased.
But we're drinking out of our new 50th mugs. I've got the Hollywood Studios. I love the Hollywood Studios one. And you've got the Animal Kingdom one.
Kingdom. So grab yourself a coffee. I promise though, this video will not be as long as the haul video.
No.
That turned out to be quite a chatty one. I want to do this one a lot shorter.
Yeah. Does that mean you're talking faster?
Thank you.
No, you don't really.
The other thing which we were going to discuss with, I think because money has become such a big issue with going on these trips, the exchange rate, the rising costs, everyone is very, very interested in how much things are costing. We're exactly the same. You want to know, you know, the deals and that kind of thing, and especially if it can help you maybe bring down costs for your own trip. So we thought we would share the cost of the trip at the start of the video, which is something we haven't done before. I've always been very open with costs, and I share numbers in the vlogs and things like that, because I know for myself, when I'm watching a vlog, it really, really helps me. And I'm really grateful when people do share.
There is something we will come to as well, and this is maybe a little bit of a tip. I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but it's also maybe keeping eyes on things like exchange rates, especially when you're booking things like accommodation.
Yes.
I'm sure you're going to maybe touch on that maybe.
I wasn't going to, but I will actually.
That's a very valid point, because we secured our price for the villa prior to when the exchange rate really fell off a cliff.
But I need to add to that, that was great for paying the deposit, but when it came to paying the balance, it wasn't.
No, but we still did it before it. Remember, it really plummeted. It would have cost us so much more, because the prices were in dollars, weren't they?
I don't think that's necessarily because of the exchange rate. Everything's gone up in price. So we got a really, really good price for our villa.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Because we booked it so early. But when I looked at it more recently, because I was thinking then, because we had a few people drop out, that we didn't need that huge, great big...
to find somewhere smaller, wasn't it?
Yeah, and actually our villa had gone up by over $1,000. But you're right with the exchange rate, because we've done this in the past when the exchange rate's suddenly dropping. I've actually called up and I've actually paid for hotel bills that didn't need paying until the day, or like a month in advance. So we've done the same with this villa. It started, we could see the exchange rate wasn't getting any better.
So we decided to pay, didn't we?
Yeah. But it still did end up costing us more money than what we expected, but we still got it at a much better rate
than if we'd have left it to pay at that moment that we needed to pay.
So do keep an eye on the exchange rate.
So I just thought I'd mention
that's
that,
a really good point. Also, as well, like when you're booking with Verbo or sometimes even booking.com, you get given the price in pounds,
but it's not, is it?
No, and then if you're not actually paying until you get there, it's usually in dollars.
It's worked in our favour before. When the exchange rate has gone the other way, it's worked actually. So just keeping on. It is a bit of an unknown, because you don't know which way it's going to go, especially because holidays sometimes you make bookings like a year, maybe 18 months or whatever in advance. You don't know what's going to happen. I think at the moment it's different time, shall we say? So I don't think anything's kind of predicted. So
the total trip. So this was 3 weeks in October, and it was just for the 2 of us. The actual trip cost £3,878.12.
That's very accurate.
I know. I'd worked it all out before we went. That included Esther's. That included our taxi both ways to and from Heathrow, which was £75 each way, cheaper than us parking at Heathrow. That included £49 for the Premier Inn. Our flights, we use Virgin Miles, and they were for premium. They ended up costing, we changed at the very last minute because we were due to fly home from Miami.
Weren't we?
Made a change and we had to pay a little bit more in tax. and it ended up costing in the end £1,063.12.
Two of us, wasn't it? So that's total.
Yeah, so that's for the two of us travelling in premium. So it was just 500 quid each.
Return.
Yeah. Number one lounge we didn't have to pay for. We get it through Aid's bank account, Aid's Barclays. It's a travel pack that also includes travel insurance, so we haven't had to pay for that. And usually we pay £6 each to reserve a seat because it gets very, very full. But actually we'd got a booking that was during COVID that we could use, so we didn't have to pay, if that makes sense. So that was already sorted. The car, keep an eye on car costs. We book with Florida Discount Car Hire, or is it Discount
Florida Car Hire?
I can never get that right.
I always get the two way under the
yeah. Andy is amazing, and you can keep an eye on your car cost, and even at the last minute, even after you've paid, you pay 8 weeks before you travel. If your cost has gone down, you can amend it. And
I think you can do it online as well, can't you? You can do it online, so it's really good. Now, we actually, was it literally a month or 2 months before we went, we saw the price come down?
I was going to say, originally we booked a Tahoe, the large SUV, for $1,758. However, we saw this fluctuate. The most it went to was, I think, $4,000 at one point, and then it was coming down to about 2.5. Then we ended up changing it to a 7-seater,
like a minivan, they call over there.
And then we realised actually it worked out even cheaper to return it on empty. The price difference was so huge from doing it
to refill it
that it just didn't make sense, because it was going to cost us more to, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. Well, we checked what the current fuel price was as well, and at the airport they always charge you more per gallon to fill up, which you understand, but sometimes it makes life easier. We've returned our cars empty before because
we usually do, don't we?
Because it just makes life easy. But this one, it was to return it empty was just going to cost about twice as much as it would do to fill it ourselves. So it didn't make sense.
And we've ended up paying for the 7-seater for 3 weeks, £1,390.23.
So car hire costs at the moment are a big chunk, and I know a lot of people at the moment are, should we say, ditching their car and looking at Uber costs. So, I mean, I don't think we could have done that. We did need a car. For what we were doing, but if
Mum and her husband shared the car with us a lot of the time, they were in with us.
So, but that is one cost there. If you think the overall cost there, that's probably at least a third of the cost was the car.
That's one cost actually I haven't added in, the Uber to Heathrow from the Premier Inn, which was £17.
And we did tip him as well. He was really good.
We tipped him £5 actually, didn't we?
Yeah, in actual fact, when we did the Uber, a lot of the airports now, definitely at Heathrow. No, is it Stansted as well? I think a lot of them now, they actually charge just to drop off. And we actually asked him that obviously, to do Uber drivers, taxi drivers, and he said, yep, everyone has to pay that.
But we were still paying £17 that we were paying previously before this price was introduced, and it comes out of their pocket, and he was so lovely.
So we thought, well, at least if we can cover that cost, it helped us out. It was an easy way to do it. We weren't going to risk the bus this time because early morning again, and we'd also heard from the reception when we went into Premier Inn, they said that sometimes it's not, not saying not reliable, but it can be busy.
I think that's something actually that is worth putting in the review, because we stayed at the Premier Inn, 15 Bath Road at Heathrow. There is the free, no, it's not free, it's a shuttle, and I think it's £6
£6 or £7.
Yeah, I think it's £6. But we've had the problem now where once we've used it before COVID, it was absolutely fine. However, since, the bus always seems to be full, and because the Premier Inn is the last stop, it doesn't even stop, it just drives past.
It's a bit of a gamble. Depending on how busy it is. It could be you're lucky and it's perfectly fine. I've had other people on there, I think other vlogs, or say that it's not been a problem, so that's fine.
However, Lee and Nick used it a couple of weeks before us. They were at an earlier hotel, they did the same, they drove past the Premier Inn and it couldn't stop. We decided not to even risk it.
The cost actually...
it was an extra £5, isn't it?
It was an extra £5, and when there were 4 of us, it actually worked out cheaper getting the Uber. So
that's very true.
That's the other thing, if there's more of you travelling, look at the Uber.
Yeah. And then the other cost, we don't pay for Disney because we're DVC members, so we've prepaid that for 50 years.
So we had 7 nights at Disney. So out of the 3 weeks, 7 nights there were on Disney property, weren't they?
Yeah, they were points. We also had an extra night at Bay Lake, so that didn't cost us. And because we're DVC members, we also don't pay to park at the hotel, so there was no cost for that. The villa was split between the 3 of us, and that cost, because there was 3 families, £1,238 each, and that was a big villa, 6-bedroom villa.
Per family, wasn't it? When we say each, it was per family,
per family,
wasn't it? Yeah.
so that's what we paid. And that was for
split 3 ways,
2
wasn't it?
weeks. Yeah. The other costs that come in, our annual passes, we bought these in 2019, so we didn't actually activate them until January this year. And with that exchange rate right then, we paid £553 each, which is currently more or less the price of a 2-week pass. But we decided not to go for water parks in that.
We're not.
And we do have dates that are cut out for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year, which we weren't planning to travel anyway. So that is the...
Or if we were, we wouldn't be fussed going to Disney, would we?
No, that's the actual cost. So people always ask us, how do you afford to go so many times? That's it. The trip cost us $3,878. The other thing I was going to say, our January costs, I've got them in front of me as well. Again, because of using miles, because of DVC points, our whole trip cost us £1,694.58. So that's how we managed to do it. So yeah, that's how we do it. Miles and DVC points. Oh, and actual spending costs worked out at, this is everything, with all our merch and everything else, we spent £122.67 a day.
Did that include food as well?
That's absolutely everything. That's the total, and then I've just divided it over 21 days.
Okay.
So, but some of that, we've bought a lot of Christmas presents.
Yep.
We've done really, really well. There was a big thing that we haven't eaten in sit-down restaurants very much. We had a lot of picky eaters, a few sort of young people with autism and things like that, so I'm sure you'll understand that you're more limited. So we were very flexible with where we ate, and we've eaten at a lot of quick serves just to give more choice and things, and it just worked out really well, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that kind of covers the cost, doesn't it? So
yeah, it does. So if you've got any questions, let us know. We're always happy to
Or if
chat.
there's any information you'd like to know in regard to how we do book our trips, and how we travel, we've actually got a vlog that we've recorded that is coming up.
Have we? Oh,
didn't we do that? We did that out there, didn't we?
No. Which one?
Wasn't it the one
No, that was booking hotels.
Oh, sorry, that's booking hotels. So ignore me about that one. But if there are any questions, please reach out and ask us. We're glad to help.
Right,
if
so
we can.
We've got a little. We wanted to talk highs and lows and just sort of bullet points of the trip. As we've just mentioned, like traveling with people with autism. Wanted to talk about the DAS pass actually. Should we go straight into that one?
Yeah, straight into the DAS pass.
Because we've been asked a lot, haven't we? How did it go?
Yeah. I mean, before we went, we had some feedback from people who've used it before, and the DAS pass is a disability pass for people that are unable to queue. It isn't a physical disability, so if you've got a broken leg or something like that. It's more to do with maybe a condition or a mental condition.
Well, like we've just touched on travelling with autism.
Autism, yeah.
My sister's got a bladder disease. That's something I will mention straight away, that it's not queue jumping. You are queuing virtually, so you still get the same wait time more or less to come back. But don't think that means you don't queue at all, because you do still queue. And there was a few times where my sister couldn't actually wait in the queue anymore. She actually
had to leave, even with using the dash, she had to leave the queue.
She just couldn't stand it anymore.
And she didn't come back into the queue either, did she?
She's, bless her, she was like, I think test track's the worst, sat on the floor, really uncomfortable, but then just looking back thinking, I don't think I can get through. And she then starts to get in a panic, doesn't she? Because she doesn't know what to do, and she's really uncomfortable.
And I'd also like to point out as well that you don't necessarily see this on the vlog, but it's how it does change your trip when you are travelling with people who do have conditions. The fact of, I think the place she visited most was probably every single toilet in every single park. I'm literally talking every maybe 10-15 minutes.
It felt like
sometimes.
It at times. Well, I think it's just the case of every time she sees a toilet, she'll go.
I'm not. That's not criticism, but it's. I think people kind of sometimes think if there's a DAS pass, it's almost like a free fast pass around the park. Where there was a lot of time, you don't see it in the vlogs, that we're waiting around, which again, it's not a problem, but it's just to show, I think, on a different side, that it isn't just the fact of all.
But also, when you see the vlogs, you don't see that side. I mean, sometimes,
No.
I mean, you, if you know us, we are a jokey family. Everyone takes the mick out of everyone.
Yep.
So we laugh, like when she got lost. She gets lost all the time, and she came back in tears.
That was funny.
I did film it, and we were all laughing at her. But that's what we do in our family.
Exactly. Yeah. Her climbing under toilet doors.
Yeah.
And things like that.
She is the biggest prankster out of all of us.
But it's just the fact, you don't see that in there, but having it does change your day. And I think the amount of time, I think probably it would go into hours sometimes in a day, and that isn't a criticism, but it's just to make people aware when you are travelling with people. And we have seen it others as well, where we've seen people that have maybe been in wheelchairs have to.
Yeah, we've travelled with.
We've travelled that in one of our trips before, and you kind of feel that. You know, when the ride stops and they're trying to transfer someone maybe out of a wheelchair onto a ride, you just think, oh, well, they've not had to queue that. We've actually been in those situations and seen
they wait longer.
And they actually wait longer. We did it on Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
And we actually waited a good 15 minutes. It was more sort of walk-on, wasn't it?
It was, because it was during extra hours.
But they had to wait round to get the right, was it the right
And
vehicle
it's a
to be
small
able to
world.
transfer on, or for when someone else disabled came off to transfer over. So it was a really good insight to see, because I think you jump to conclusions sometimes, and it's given us a different point of view in general to how things actually, and also how hard the staff work.
Yeah, to look
because there are
after
some
people.
parks over here in the UK that don't even cater for it. So
That's very true.
So no, it worked well.
I was also going to say as well, something else that we haven't included in the videos is the amount of downtime we have. So we've had longer park days, but there's been times like, I think my niece had a lie down in the affection section at one point. She was just done in. It's just so overstimulated, everything out there. We needed to take a lot of time out. So quite often when we're waiting for our queues, our DAS pass, we're actually sitting down somewhere, just taking time out, trying to find the quiet spots. You'll know how much we love our quiet spots anyway, and that's not always shown in the videos as well.
No, exactly. I mean, so that's just something else as well that you'll see, that our days are changed a little bit by that as well. But she did very well, and I think she loved it as well.
Yeah.
But you sometimes don't think.
We also travelled with somebody else with a disability as well, and he actually went and got himself a badge, which was really cool.
Yes.
And he went up to a cast member and asked for a badge. They didn't have any disability badges, but they wrote him one out.
Yep.
And he wanted it to be seen, just so, like, if he needed extra help, extra time to get off a ride, and it just makes staff members or anybody else around more aware if he can't maybe make himself understood properly.
Yeah, because sometimes you see someone and you do not know there's a disability. And it was really, really eye-opening spending time and also chatting, because he was really open about chatting about his
He should have had that badge on when he asked the cast member if he could drive the train at the affection section. He was really adamant he wanted to drive that train. Right, also wanted to touch on travelling in a large group. This was something we were a little bit anxious about before going.
Yep.
And it was absolutely fine.
Yeah, it wasn't really a problem at all. I mean, I think the only thing I would say is the fact of when you go on rides, it's different when you're travelling as a 4 or you're travelling as a 9. But that's only a minor thing, really. It's just the Disney sort you, don't you? But,
yeah. Dining reservations are very tricky to do. We did find that not all restaurants will book for that many.
And also, if you're trying to find somewhere for a quick serve, as you know,
yes,
it's not the easiest thing to try and find a space to sit, even if there's even 2, 3 or 4 of you. But to have 9, it can be a challenge. But then that's something you just kind of have to try and live with.
Also, everything takes twice as long, if not longer. Things like going to the toilet. So we'd stop all the time for my sister, and then it would be, somebody would be like, oh, I'll just go and have a try. And so then somebody else would go off, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Shopping, you know, waiting around outside if somebody's shopping. Everything takes twice as long. You lose people. Wi-Fi is not always great in the park. We lost my sister so many times. She's a smoker, so she would tootle off, wouldn't she?
Out of the park.
Out of the park. She gets lost all the time anyway, so then we might not see her for half an hour. So yeah, things like that. And also off-site restaurants as well expect to wait a lot longer for a table if there's a queue already.
Yeah, now some places you can do call ahead. So we did do that. Did we do that actually? No, we didn't do it this time.
We did it with...
We did it last trip, didn't we?
Yeah.
In June. But you can do some call ahead. Or the other tip is to try and get in early. if you're not fussed about eating like at say 7 o'clock, try and get in at 4 or 5. You'll probably find the wait time be a lot less. That's a tip for that. Large group, try and get there early.
Yeah, definitely. Let's cover first time staying in a villa.
Yes. Did you like it?
Loved it.
Loved it. Now, what did you love most about the... Now, I'm talking about the villa, not just the villa, but I guess, are we talking about location as well?
Location was amazing. I was going to say I loved coming downstairs because I worked pretty much every morning for 2 or 3 hours, sitting in the hot tub with my feet in the hot tub, working with a cup of tea. And we all used the hot tub and the pool pretty much every day, every evening, didn't we?
Yeah, in actual fact, that's one big plus I was going to mention, is the fact that although we're not water park people, we do love a pool, a hot tub, just that relaxing time, whether it be the start of the day, end of the day. And we did go into the actual pool area of the resort at Story Lake. We went there early one day and loved it. It was such a nice area. The lazy river, the
Except
pool.
Except for that kid that told me off. That really upset me, that did.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Yeah. We were laughing at the family and they were over somewhere else. And he said it was rude.
My sister had played a prank on us. She got our
nephew to come over and get us wet, basically.
Get us wet. We were sat on the side of this hot tub. And this kid's bratty, what is about 8 or 9, started having a go at me, telling me it was rude to laugh at people. And I explained it was my family and I was laughing at my sister, and he just wouldn't let it go, would he?
No, he wouldn't. Still, even to the point when he went out of the hot tub.
Telling all his family, and it was really embarrassing.
Well, what was actually worse, when I say worse, was his grandparents were German, weren't they? And they started talking in German, but not realising that you actually were understanding everything they were saying.
But I didn't want to say anything.
You didn't want to say anything, did you? So
bratty kid.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So no, that was great, but I'm so glad we did have a pool. I felt a bit guilty not going to the pool area again at the actual resort.
I loved it in the villa.
No, but I did. We drove past in the afternoon and saw the pool area, and it was busy. And I thought, okay, but we can go in our pool. And it was great. I actually preferred it, I think, in some ways. Because you're just there. You got your own space.
Yeah.
Loved that.
The location was amazing. We stayed at Story Lake. We obviously didn't want to share the location while we were out there. But it was first time there. Absolutely amazing. We literally drove out of the resort, turned a left, and we were straight on Osceola Parkway, which takes you 10 minutes to... Oh, what was that? Is that a window?
Might be a door because it's a bit windy out there.
Takes you to the entrance of Animal Kingdom Toll Plaza where you park.
And also, it's pretty much that road, that West Osceola Parkway, is almost pretty much the way to...
All the parks.
All the parks.
There was a turning off on the right beforehand to Hollywood Studios. I think that was 9 minutes from where we were. It was just... And the great thing is we've always had to use the 192 to get to the parks, and you know how busy it is. All the traffic lights, all the traffic. There was no traffic or traffic lights.
Location-wise, it was ideal.
But you were right on the 192. We were really close to it as well.
What I did also like about it as well, and this is when we've stayed at either Bahama Bay or elsewhere, if we wanted to get to a Target or a Walmart, it has been a little bit of a trek, hasn't it, to try and get, and we've had to go onto the 192. There was a Target literally 5 minutes.
At the end of our road.
At the end of our road. There was a Publix, wasn't there?
Yeah.
There was places to eat. Excuse me, that was so easy to get to.
Panda
but
Express.
that was a real plus, and I think before when we've done a Target trip, it's been an outing, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas this was almost like if you did need something, you could just pop out. We didn't really, did we?
No.
But it was easy and nice knowing that it did only take a few minutes.
Would 100% stay there again. I read some really negative reviews when I was out there about it being loud, but then I guess that's down to luck. It could be loud any villa place. The villas are all close together.
Anyway, get in a hotel. Yeah, you could have someone, a loud neighbour or whatever.
I was going to say noisy neighbours.
So no, we loved it. The villa was great. Spacious. We had. I don't think there is necessarily a bad thing we can say.
The other thing, we're talking like high points, was staying at Reunion.
Yes.
We'd never stayed at Reunion before. We kindly got gifted, you may have seen on our Instagram stories, a trip from Trip House.
Yeah, Trip House Rentals gifted us a couple of nights stay at Reunion, and we absolutely loved it. It was really nice to visit somewhere new and explore and spend that time.
It felt really special.
It felt really special, and those vlogs will be coming up during the series as well. So there will be reviews.
The villa was
amazing.
The
villa was
like
lovely.
A whole different league, wasn't it? We loved our villa at Story Lake, and then we stepped into this one, and it was like a whole different league.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple things. I don't know if many people really notice things, but it's noticing like the appliances are all like the Samsung Cuisinart.
The cushions on the bed
finish.
were my mind's just gone blank.
DKNY.
Yeah, DKNY.
And also the bed had a quilt on it.
It was so nice.
How many places in America do you go and it's just a sheet?
I struggle with the bedding.
It was a summer quilt, but it was nice just having that quilt, wasn't it? So
really thick. We call them a cloud at home. Really thick mattress
topper as well.
It's just things like that.
That was really, really lovely. We'll be sharing more about that as those vlogs come up, and also maybe some Instagram stories about that when those vlogs go up.
The whole resort was just beautiful. There's a hotel that you can visit as well, and there's a rooftop bar, and we watched the Epcot fireworks from there with a charcuterie board. It was just all lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It felt like we were being really spoiled.
Definitely.
Another high for me, and I know you really enjoyed this as well.
Yes, yeah.
We went to the Titanic exhibition.
Yeah, I was
kind
of in two minds. If we didn't do it, I wouldn't have been fussed. But I'm glad we did. I know that Ben and the kids bailed; they didn't go. But I'm glad I did. You know, sometimes you feel that, I really should do something, because it could be you come back and you say you had a wonderful time, and I thought, I wish I'd have gone.
Well, I've been wanting to go, and my mum was really, really keen to go, so it seemed the perfect opportunity. And they bought their park passes through attractions tickets, and they give you is it Dine for Less or something card? It's an app these days, and you get loads and loads of discounts. And the Titanic experience was 25% discount, so we all went in for $16 each.
Yeah.
And we could have spent longer. It was so good.
We won't give too many details now, because it's obviously all in the vlogs as well. But no, we had a lovely time. It was nice to do something a bit different. And I think we'll be exploring for other things to do in Orlando. We do try to do maybe a couple of things each trip that aren't like park-based, do we? So
we love that.
We love that.
Did you want to touch on that?
Yeah, we can do. Unless you wanted to talk about that first.
Well, the bad point.
Yeah. Get the bad point, though. There is
Get
something.
The low. It was supposed to be a high and low, and to be honest,
there weren't really any lows. But this
was a major low for us.
This is one we have to touch on.
Well, we spoke about not including it, but then we have mentioned it. There was one time we were really upset in a park, and we did touch on it.
And we will be including that as well. So that will come in the vlogs. And this isn't just on the trip. This is actually prior to the trip, and we just want to touch on who the family actually booked their trips through. Now, we actually, should we say, not say recommended them, but you did recommend them. But you had found prices before, and the service had been amazing.
Staff were lovely.
The staff were lovely. And we're talking about Ocean, Florida here. And we're being completely transparent. Is the fact that the service they got, we won't go into too many details, but the service they got leading up to the trip, and also it's not just the one family. There were 4 bookings in total on this trip.
All had problems.
Major it seemed to be, once money was taken, it was almost like you were kind of, not say forgotten, but very difficult to try and deal with anything. It's not the place we're going to go into the details of it. If people do wish to know any more, or think, well, I've got a booking with them, or I'm thinking of booking with them, we didn't book with them ourselves, but we've obviously been really closely involved in everything that's been kind of discussed. So, but that was a real
And there were big problems as well. Like my sister's suddenly realising, not long before she was going, that her trip was only booked for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Her flights instead of 3 weeks.
And then having to wait a week to actually get anything done.
Her name wrong on the tickets. Jordan, who we were going to talk about, and when we speak about all the family, they've all given us permission to talk, and like especially with the problems, they've almost willed us to talk about it just to pre-warn other people. Yep. Jordan, who was travelling with us, he's a friend of the family, mid-20s, with special needs. He had lots of problems again leading up to it, didn't he?
Yep.
They wouldn't even tell him which flight he was on until about a couple of weeks before he was travelling, so he couldn't book seats or anything, and they knew he had special needs.
I know that when you do go through a third party, you're not going to be able to reserve your seat in the same way you would do with Virgin. It's going to be a closer time. But he didn't even know what flight.
But the family all did. They called up Virgin Direct. So one of you kindly messaged us to say, call Virgin Direct. They have the same experience. And Virgin were amazing. However, Jordan paid for his trip up front nearly 3 years beforehand. And Ocean Florida blocked him from everything, so Virgin couldn't access any of his details, so they couldn't book his seat. So obviously this was so stressful for him. It would be stressful enough anyway, but when you've got sort of special needs as well, that sometimes can times 10 the anxiety. And then he just had a feeling that things weren't going to go right. And then when we got there, it turns out he'd booked his park passes through them. The rest of the family had booked them separately through attractions. He'd done everything through Ocean Florida. They'd activated his park pass. It was either 4 or 5 days before he travelled. They had him on flights, so they knew which day he was travelling. But they'd activated them a few days beforehand, and Disney said there was nothing they could do because they didn't activate them, and Ocean Florida were not budging. They would not extend the days, so he in effect would have lost
4 or 5 days.
As it happens, he came home early.
Because of another mess up as well, that he got to a hotel after staying on site for a week and there was no booking.
He likes to travel independently. He's always travelled on his own.
He's travelled before, so he knows how to travel. He knows how to book things. He knows how things work.
And we were all in a villa. He's never travelled with a family before, so he decided he would prefer a hotel on International Drive. There was lots of different excursions and things
he was going to do
that he booked himself. So he wanted to have the flexibility to use an Uber to come to us, but also have his own space. And my nephew was going to stay with him some of the time as well, because they're like best friends. But then he just had a feeling he was going to get to the hotel. Was it the Crown Plaza he was staying? That rings a bell.
I can't remember. But the hotel were fantastic, weren't they? They did everything they could.
There was no booking for him. And he wasn't the only one. There was a family with young children also booked with Ocean Florida in exactly the same situation. They'd paid in full. There was no booking for them.
Yeah. And Ocean Florida said there was nothing they could do. It was all okay their end.
Yeah, they didn't want to know. They were happy to leave him there. The hotel gave him an extra day. This was whilst we were in reunion, actually.
And we didn't know, did we?
But the family, he hadn't told the family either.
He didn't want to bother them, did he?
No, and he ended up booking a flight home. It was just too much for him to cope with. My sister then found out, and she spoke to my brother over here in the UK. He called up Ocean Florida, finally got it resolved, and they said, oh yeah, they'd found his booking, by which time I think it was too much for him.
It happened, and I think it was just it was the last nail in the coffin on it, basically, because of all the catalogue of other things. So, but that's just a brief thing. So we won't touch on that or dwell too much more on it.
It was really upsetting for all of us. We'd grown so fond of him. He's such a lovely guy, as you'll see in the video. So much fun. We learnt so much from him. Bless him, he even offered to do a video for us talking about travelling with disabilities.
I know, that would have been,
so lovely. But no, it was a major down point for us. It all upset us so much.
Imagine if
he left about 4 days after that, didn't he?
Yeah, imagine if you're on a trip and then someone has to leave and it's not due to their own planning as such. It's that they've actually almost not made to leave, but they feel that point where they can't stay. But anyway, so that's just one.
I don't know what's happened since, actually. So.
No, but it's just more the fact of I would be very aware, especially if it's just a one booking. You kind of think, well, okay, maybe I had a bad experience, but considering there were 4 and every single one had something quite severe.
I think it upset me the most, the fact that they knew he was travelling on his own, but they didn't know he was with family or friends, and that they were happy to leave somebody in a country with a disability with no accommodation, and knowing that they'd paid.
And it had to take a further follow-up from somebody else to actually...
I just find that disgraceful. I really do. So, no, we wouldn't recommend them.
So that's hopefully the last low on there, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but that was the only low, wasn't it?
Yeah, should we talk about...
Actually, can I go on to this, actually? One of my top things.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things for me, the biggest highs, was my family reactions. And we've captured lots of them in videos. It makes me so emotional. I was looking through the videos yesterday.
You haven't seen some of the footage I've got.
I was going to say, it's when you filmed us walking into Magic Kingdom the first time.
Excuse me. Oh, you've got that, have you?
Yeah, I saw that. And my mum's expression, she's just... just walking in, and then she cries. My mum cries all the time anyway, so I'm happy to leave that in the videos because everyone who knows mum knows that she cries.
Yep.
Even her husband, I didn't capture that, even her husband was welling up. It was just all so emotional, and their reactions on the rides were just amazing, weren't they?
Yeah, it was so lovely to see, and I think that's another part as well, is when you've gone with somebody or going with people for the first time, I think there's many different things you do wonder, what will they think? And in actual fact, it's something your mum said a week into the trip, didn't she? What did she say to you?
We went to Texas Roadhouse and we came back from the loo, and I said to Mum, what do you honestly think of it? You know, what's taken you by surprise? And she said by how much I liked it. And she sat down at the table and she said that she went out expecting not to like it.
Yeah.
And
so I think to have that opinion not only kind of turned round, but to the point where she wants to go back.
They were looking at booking even when they were out there. They love it.
Yeah, so that reaction, that was nice to see. Also, you can see how overwhelming it can be for a first timer.
The first night, I didn't think she was going to like it.
No, I think it was just going to be, I think it was going to be us hitting a wall, and it was just going to be bamboozled
she just
and just not enjoying
impressed,
it.
No.
But I think
she was tired.
I think also tiredness, travel.
Yeah.
But I think once, after the first couple of days, they got used to the transport from the Dolphin.
Yeah, that's true.
Getting on the buses, even when they got on the wrong ones, they managed to sort of, like, they're supposed to get on the bus, but they oh, so that's the door. They got on the wrong bus, but they decided to go then to the TTC, and they got the monorail. They worked it through. And
they loved it.
And it was great, and they loved it. So that for us was really nice. So hopefully, travelling with people that have been before, like obviously we have been, hopefully that's helped. So obviously it's not a true first timers, but hopefully it's made the best time for them. And seeing their reaction was.
I just heard, I've mentioned it before, she loves Winnie the Pooh. My mum's grown up with Disney. Her parents were really into Disney, and when she first saw Winnie the Pooh, her needlework teacher used to read them the Winnie the Pooh stories, and she just stood in front of Winnie the Pooh, in Epcot where he's catching butterflies, and she just sobbed, didn't she? We've got some cracking videos.
Head,
when my sister showed Winnie the Pooh
her really bad Winnie the Pooh tattoo.
That she told him she got it when she was drunk, when she was 18, and he was so impressed. Yeah. We've got all those videos.
He was laughing. He was really laughing.
We've got some really good videos to share. Right, you wanted to go on.
Riviera.
This video is turning out to be longer than I expected. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, we booked that Riviera. It was we tried to get Boardwalk or Beach Club because of where the family was situated.
My mum was at the Dolphin, my sister was at the Caribbean.
Yeah, but Riviera was the only one that was available for the 3 nights that we
needed a week.
We needed a week for those 3 nights. And we absolutely loved Riviera. As you know from our other videos, we always seem to have a new favourite every time we go. I think we had new favourites every single place we went to on this one, whether it be on-site, off-site, or ever. But Riviera, there was something about it that felt
so relaxed.
I felt so relaxed. It was not only the hotel itself, that was lovely enough, but it was just the area outside the hotel where you sit to eat food by the water. You see the Skyliner. You just wander around. There was just something about it that felt you were escaping. You were amongst that or in that Disney bubble still, but it felt so chilled. There's just a feeling about it. I mean, some resorts are like that. I think the Grand Floridian's kind of like that. I think Bay Lake can be kind of the relaxed.
Yeah, I like Bay
But there's
Lake.
a different feeling. There seemed to be, I don't know, it's just for me, I think when we're towards the end of the trip, just sitting outside, having that pizza, watching the water.
Pizza I've ever eaten.
But it was just, I could have sat there all afternoon.
And it was so nice because my sister, although she was at the Caribbean, she was in Aruba, which is the buildings closest to the Skyliner by the Riviera.
Yep.
So they were quicker for their quick serve to come to us. So we were really, really close to them. So that was really special.
Riviera, big high point for us. Absolutely loved it. We'd look at wanting to stay there again.
It's a lot of points though, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So, but it is a lovely place. I mean, maybe another sort of 2 or 3. And also location actually is pretty good in regards to if the Skyliner's on, or if you haven't got bad weather, it is probably quite perfect. And of course, if you haven't left it for fireworks at Epcot and you try and get back, but we'll cover that. We'll cover that in other vlogs.
Queues. The last thing let's talk about is food, because I know a lot of people ask the questions, how did you cope with the prices and all that? And as we've mentioned previously, because of traveling with people with a lot of very specific dietary requirements.
Fussy eaters.
Yeah.
I think it's the word to say.
We did mostly quick serves and it just worked out really well for us.
It did.
We like to graze anyway, so it suits us. Coffee in the morning with a donut, and then we did a few snacky bits here and there, and then a quick serve. It worked out really well, and it kept costs down a lot, didn't it? So yeah, that's it. Yeah, so food was no issue. We loved it, and the weather, by the way, was amazing. We were so lucky.
Yeah, although it was hot, it wasn't as hot as June. It also wasn't, or didn't seem as humid.
Well, we noticed because usually when we travel, the camera will mist up in the morning, and it takes ages for it to demist.
You need to have to let it acclimatise to the humidity outside. We didn't have that once. So you know that kind of feeling like you're walking through a sauna. It wasn't like that. So we haven't been in October for a while. So it probably is always like that in October, but it made a difference from being there in summer. So that was hot. It was in the low 30s, wasn't it, most of the time?
We had a couple of days where it's 15 degrees, which was lovely.
Yep.
And yeah, mornings and evenings were much cooler. We also had rain twice. Once we were on Pirates, came out, there was puddles everywhere. People were in ponchos, but it had just stopped. And the second time we were heading to Animal Kingdom Lodge, we knew it was going to rain in the afternoon. So we timed it so that we'd got the bus from Animal Kingdom to the lodge to show my mum. And it came down just as we were going into the quick serve there.
Yeah, so we grabbed something to eat. It really came down.
And then it cleared up.
And it cleared. So
that was the only rain we had. We were so lucky.
Yeah, so all in all, we had a wonderful trip.
I'd say a perfect trip.
And also, it didn't seem to go past quickly.
We had so many comments, people saying, have you retired out there? Are you now living out there and you haven't told me?
But in actual fact, sometimes we've had our trips, and we've done road trips that have been similar length, if not longer, but they've gone quickly, especially when you get to that halfway point of a holiday. You feel it's going to, but it didn't. And why that was, I don't know, but I'm glad it was, because it didn't feel like every day was rushed past. So we thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was perfect. I loved the family time. We laughed so much. And I can't wait to share the videos with you. I can't wait to start editing.
Yeah, vlogs will be coming. So this obviously is the review prior to the vlogs coming up. So thank you so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe, click the notification bell, and also leave a comment as well if there's anything that you'd like to know more about, or anything else. So thank you so much for watching.
And we shared the haul video last night, so I'll leave the link to that. And I've also got a very short video of what's in Character Warehouse at the moment as well. We were there just a few days ago, so I'll leave that video in the next couple of days as well. Yep. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will see you very soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.